Hi, this is Ellen Madono at Tokyo Homeopathy, and it's winter, but it's quite warm here in Kamakura, and even so, I'm wearing a heavy sweater and drinking hot tea and enjoying myself. I took a really nice video case for you all with one of my students. She's a beginner. She's talking about the case of her father, who's an 80-year-old man. It's really her father. She really wants to find the right remedy, but she's a beginner and she's not too sure what kind of information is important in homeopathy. So it's almost like I'm interviewing a patient, and I have to sort of sort through the information she gives me. She's a student, so I have to tell her what I'm looking for and why I'm looking for it. Also, at first we're not getting the best information. So this video is more about the kind of information that we need. First of all, my videos are all a little bit too long, so I'm on a campaign to get all of my students to use these videos in the way that's best for you. I like this online teaching because it's easy to reach you, and you can use it in the best way that's possible for you. This is an example of a video that Dr. Heinner Frei has about polarity analysis, and he has some really good videos up. I hope you will watch them. But my videos are not nice like his, like 22 minutes. Mine are longer, because I'm trying to just really help you with the reality of case taking and the reality of doing an analysis. You need to look at this time where you want to stop and take a break, get some coffee. This is not a horse race. And so do what makes sense for you. You can see here also that you can click on this red line here and find different parts of the video. If you look on YouTube, you will see the exact times when different topics come up. But these screens here that are blue like this kind of screen, is always a place where I'm changing the topic. So you might look for a change in the topic. There's nothing wrong with you skipping a topic if you think it's boring. You can always go back to it. You can change your opinion. You're a student, and you don't have to please me. So just do what makes sense for you. And another thing is, I really don't want you to memorize detail. I'm putting here out examples for how you can practice homeopathy, but these are not rules. Different people do it differently, and it's kind of difficult to know who gets better results, but certainly I've tried it in many different ways, and I get results from all these kinds of different ways. So in many cases, I'm just showing you different possibilities. And also, you can arrange for tutoring to meet your personal needs. I have a vision for this series, and I'd like to share that with you. Different levels of students that I'm aiming at. First of all, there's the homeopath, the person who already uses homeopathy successfully and knows how to use a repertory and a materia medica, and doesn't need a lot of help. You will be able to use polarity analysis very quickly. I think in the beginning videos, I've given you some hints as to how the software works and what the ideas are behind it. But if you have a background, that should be enough. But even if you're into homeopathy and you know a lot, I'm going to start introducing Jan Sholten's periodic table of remedies, and I think it'll be a welcome strategy for increasing your case analysis strategies. I have many strategies, and I think that it's not bad to be ready for all kinds of different situations. Finally, if you are a beginner to homeopathy, then my whole series is really designed to teach you. And I will help you with the tools of homeopathy, which are Materia Medica and Repertory, and the homeopathic software. And I don't expect you necessarily to be interested in everything at the same level that I'll teach you. I'll teach you as if you wanted to be a professional, but in any case, you can learn at the level you want. You can find the beginning level on YouTube, and you can become a member of my site, and I have other videos up for members. If you're a beginner, you're going to get more help with all of these tools. And then there's a private inner circle of members who are people who are available for tutorials that will be videotaped, and you don't mind being seen in public. But this level is only for active participants. I'm trying not to air a lot of private information and that sort of thing. So that's not the issue. But I just need feedback from students. So I've made this kind of inner circle in order to get feedback so I can give you more of what you need. So the goal here is to help everyone to master the tools to find the curative remedy. And the other goal is to create community, because at least within the inner circle, I'm hoping that students will get to know one another, and that should help to create a better environment for learning. Now I'm going to interrupt the interview here to tell you this is a two-part series. The first video is the one you're listening to here, and it's about a case report, and I'll show you a pre-analysis of the case, and you'll learn how we think about using the periodic table of remedies, in this case it's of minerals. So I'll introduce it to you, and then in video 2 we'll do an analysis of the information that kept coming in from the student as she began to kind of see what kind of information was important. We had email conversations. Actually, we came to a plant remedy, and I show you that analysis in video 2. So this is broken up into 2 videos. Just to give you a little bit of insight about the case, because we're talking and I'm kind of drawing the information out of her because she's not sure what is important. When you do a case, there's something called a pre-analysis. This means that this is before you do repertorizing, before you look in the Materia Medica, before you even think about remedies. You kind of think about what are the issues for that person. And so we have, first of all, the man is elderly, 80 years old, and he's lost his wife, and he's got prostatitis with the radioactive seeds implanted there. So there's some issues with the sexual organs, and also the loss of his wife is an issue for him. He feels very bad about this. It's not something he could get over easily. And he's basically quite anxious, partly because he's had some drug poisoning, which caused him to become increasingly senile, which he wasn't before that. But originally he was a woodsman, and he loved nature. So he wants to be very self-sufficient, and he takes long walks. He loves family and community, and he has a very strong orientation toward work and duty. One strong theme in his case is that he's quite rigid. His mind and his body are rigid. He's stubborn about things. And then he gets seizures where he becomes unconscious. He also has anaphylactic shock. I see these as somewhat similar. But the information about the seizures is not available at this point. The student hasn't understood, and I'm not too clear about the case because I'm just taking it in. So when you're hearing me, I haven't done this pre-analysis. I haven't done this, this summary for myself. I'm actually just taking it in right then and there. There are some problems because the patient, when he has these seizures, doesn't remember what happened to him. So we're missing a lot of rubrics that we need. And also the student lacks the experience to find a remedy. Actually, we use the periodic table and come up with a remedy, gallium. In the beginning, this seizure information, we're lacking too much information. And then later, after the video is done, I get emails back that he's having difficulty walking and is vertigo. And also she tells me that he's worse on exertion. So he's worse on exertion. This causes low blood pressure, which is part of the seizure. Okay. So this piece of information here becomes very important because I realize, we can focus on the seizures, but we don't have this information. So the reason why I'm kind of going through all this long process is because this is the real process of life and of learning homeopathy. You don't necessarily know what is important in the beginning, and you don't take in all of the important information. I don't know what's important for this case, and I didn't necessarily take in all the important information. Okay, so on hindsight, this is very important, but when we were at this stage, we didn't know that. The student didn't know that, and I didn't know that. So the student is going through a learning process. She's got to find higher reliability and get a symptom that's closer in time to the patient's most pressing problem, which is the seizures. And in the beginning, what I'm going to talk to you about here is when we don't know that. And it's very possible that you have a patient who can't tell you. If I was talking to her father, he might not be able to tell me the information that I need about the seizures. His daughter is observing him, remembering, has observed him many times, talked to him many times. She brings me new information, but this doesn't always happen. The situation that I'm going to describe in this video is very common. You don't get enough information. Well, that's, spirituality in general is not church going. That's not what, that's not the idea. So that's not too surprising, but okay. So, and he's not, is he, I'm trying to figure out whether he's a very expressive kind of guy.
No, he's not. He's a typical macho male who's physically active and doesn't talk about his feelings.
Okay.
Except once in a while.
Except once in a while. So what's once in a while like?
Well, when he thinks he's not going to make it out of the hospital, he's talked to me a couple of times, and but only a few times.
Uh-huh.
Usually when he's in the hospital, he isn't up for talking, and so the last couple of times he's talked a little bit about how he feels, and that he worries, and and the last time he was in the hospital, he told the staff there that he was depressed, and they asked if he ever thought about hurting himself, and he said no.
Yeah, okay.
He just didn't want to be alive. He wanted to go with my mother. And that's the first time he's ever talked to anybody outside the family about anything like that.
Huh. How did your mother feel about him being kind of not expressive?
Well, She was very accepting of him
Mm-hmm.
the way he was. She totally loved him.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess she just, from her day and age, men weren't expressive.
Mm-hmm.
And so she didn't think that there was anything difficult about that, I guess.
Mm-hmm. How did he get into logging when he had a heart condition?
He was offered a job and he took it. And then he worked hard. He worked seriously. He was falling trees with a chainsaw. So, that's the hardest job out there and the most dangerous. And he did it for 30 years.
Mm. Yeah. Mm.
And
Wow.
I keep reminding him of that. He worries about the valve difficulty. But I do remind him that he worked physically hard and made it and didn't have a heart attack or a stroke or anything.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So.
Well, why are they giving him a pacemaker?
Well, that was an accident. He was having some difficulty, and he ended up with a very good heart specialist who analyzed his system without doing the CAT scans, maybe should have been done. Anyway, they decided he needed a pacemaker. They put it in. It didn't solve the problem, and the doctor said, "I'm sorry, that wasn't the problem, but we can't take it out. Once you have a pacemaker, you have it for the rest of your life, and you have to live with the protocols."
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh. But no, it doesn't involve medication.
It did in the beginning,
Uh-huh.
and just a few months after the pacemaker was implanted, then they put a stent in, and that helped. But he had to have a second stent put in just a few months later. So within half a year, he had 3 operations.
So how long ago?
Maybe 8 years ago, 10 years ago. I'm not sure. I haven't looked it up, but it's
that's enough. I'm just trying to get a lay of the territory.
Right, and he had to be on some heavy duty medications so that his body wouldn't reject the stents, and so he had 4 medications. One of which was a statin that caused. We didn't realize it caused the dementia.
Yeah, and you stopped it, he got it stopped.
Yeah,
well, that's great.
But it did some permanent damage.
Which is brain? What kind of thing?
It's the dementia. He didn't have any dementia before taking the statin. And it looked like he had Alzheimer's for 3 years. And then he came back, but he only came back about 80%. And he doesn't remember anything for those 3 years that he was on the drug. And then he has short-term memory loss.
How did he keep taking the drug? I mean, if he doesn't...
The doctor kept telling him he'd die if he didn't take it.
So he would remember enough to take it?
Well, my mother was alive then, and she...
Oh, she made sure he did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so when did your mom die?
3 years ago, I think. Yeah. 4 years ago.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so... Okay. What kind of upbringing did he have? I mean, what was his childhood like?
His parents were of German descent, very strongly and ethnically oriented, and he had 10 siblings, and he was the youngest and the tallest. So he didn't fit all the hand-me-down clothes, so that was a little bit traumatic for him.
You said he weighs 200 pounds. That's even if he's only 6.
Yes, he's quite thin right now, and I don't like it that he's gotten so thin.
Oh, he's very thin. He's 6 something.
6'5". Yeah.
6'5". And very thin.
Yeah.
When did he get so thin?
In the last couple of years. He also has done a lot of walking. So for a while, he walked 100 miles a month. As it was his thing that helped him feel better.
Uh-huh.
But then we decided that it might be, using up too much of his energy, and maybe he should cut back. So now he does, normally he does a couple of miles a day now.
Uh-huh.
And except over the last month, he hasn't been able to get out of bed most days.
So now last month he can't get out of bed.
Right.
Mm.
We've had about a month of extreme low blood pressure episodes. And as it turns out, the pacemaker has saved his life probably half a dozen times. When he has a blood pressure episode that's so low that you can't take the reading with the blood pressure cuff, then the pacemaker kicks in and keeps what blood there is moving.
Well, so does he know? How does he know he's going to have an episode?
He doesn't know. Well, in a way he does. He feels quite fatigued, but then he becomes a little bit, he doesn't think well. He's foggy, and so he just doesn't think well. He can't remember to call me when he's not feeling well. And then, he'll try to get up to get something to eat and have a fainting episode or near fainting episode.
He'll crouch down on the ground.
Yes, Yeah, he's fallen enough times and hit his head and gotten concussions and hospital stays from passing out, that he's now very aware that he needs to roll into a ball and go down on the ground.
Okay. How bad were these head injuries? What were they like?
Well, they were bad enough. One of them, he stopped breathing, and he was in a store when this happened. I wasn't. And there happened to be two nurses there, and they saw what happened, and they worked on him until EMTs got there, and they took him to the hospital. And he had a pretty good concussion. I can't remember if that particular time was a fractured skull. One time he had a fractured skull, but several times.
Okay, there's a number of very good remedies for concussions.
Okay.
So right after the concussion, I give arnica, but I think Nat Sulf is the next one in line. And you can give a remedy even, like say we can't figure this out right now. You can't get the coca right now. You can give like Nat Sulf and while we're thinking about the deeper remedy.
Okay.
And see if he can just get over the concussion, which might be helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So natrium sulfuricum.
Okay.
Okay.
And I bet I have it in my boxes of amazing stuff that Terry brought.
Yes. She bought $1,000 of remedies.
That's what she said.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to try to teach a lot of people somehow or another. And I'll start them all up with you. I'll just give them a box and a bunch of books and get going.
All right.
So, okay. So, Nat Sulf, and give him, I don't know what do you have, 30, give him the highest potency. No. Is he allergic to anything?
Bee stings. Definitely allergic to bee stings. And it seems like there was a medication a while back, but I can't remember right this minute what it was.
What happens with the bee sting?
Well, he anaphylactic shock.
So
the last time he got stung, he was working on a roof for me, and he couldn't find. He got down off the roof very fast. Couldn't find his EpiPen, drove about a mile to the fire station, ran into the fire station and passed out. And luckily there were firemen there, who saw him come in. They didn't know what was wrong, but they figured it out pretty quickly and gave him, used an EpiPen, and then he spent 3 days in the hospital recovering from that.
Okay, so this is kind of, I think I would relate this to the epileptic reactions he has.
Oh, okay.
Wouldn't you?
I don't know. It never occurred to me. It's a different system. So
is it a different system?
Well, it's a histamine system.
Yeah, it's a histamine system, but the reaction in terms of homeopathy is kind of the same reaction. It's go into a coma. And what are your senses of his epileptic fits when he has an epileptic seizure?
Well, he's definitely gone. He's not.
What happens with his blood pressure with the bee sting?
It probably goes down. I have never asked that. When he has a bee sting, there isn't time to take his blood pressure.
Okay, so in homeopathy, what you're always looking for is the similarity of the reaction. You don't have to have the similarity of the physical system. You're looking at the reaction. Okay. So if the reaction looks the same, you kind of put them together.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, that makes sense then, that the bee sting would be similar to the seizures. He definitely is not aware, and some of the seizures go on an inordinately long time, according to the medical people.
Oh, okay. So you've seen some of his, medical people have seen his seizures? And you haven't?
They have seen him afterwards. So the EMTs came one time, and he evidently had been seizing for an hour, as far as we can tell, according to what we can piece together afterwards. And he was in such pain. His muscles were in such pain from seizing for so long that he couldn't think or function and had to have pain medication. And he's really adamant against ever having pain medication.
Okay, what does pain medication do to him?
Well, it took away some of the pain so that he could sleep and so that he could get over it. But it took 3 days to get over the pain.
Okay, so he's not able to loosen up his muscles.
Yeah, he's not. He doesn't do yoga.
Okay. Yeah. But
he has very long legs, and he cannot touch the floor without bending his legs.
Okay, he's a tight body.
Tight body, yes.
Tight muscles, tight tendons.
Muscular, yeah.
Muscular. Uh-huh. And thin.
Yes.
Okay, and so that also tells us something about him. I mean, not everybody has the further tightening up of an already tight system.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, I put this together with this, I'm trying to figure out what he's like emotionally. Okay. The muscles and tendons seem like a very separate system. Uh-huh. But this the unwillingness to be expressive. And this German background, which I'm not sure what it means.
Well, it means get the job done without complaints.
Without complaints, yeah.
Yeah. You just do it.
Duty,
yes.
Duty, responsibility. Mm-hmm. And he's done it all his life.
Yes.
Right? Okay, so on the periodic table, we have a whole list of mineral remedies that are very much about work and community. And I don't know if this duty also means that you do it for your family, you do it for your community, that this is a high priority. I don't know if we're talking about a mineral. Are we talking about a mineral? Mineral is very concerned about status. So he'll listen to somebody who has higher status, but he'll also put things into a hierarchy. Hierarchies are very important to a mineral, and they're very clear about the world.
Yes. When you first mentioned that, I thought that it wasn't about a mineral, but I think it is. He does put things into a hierarchy. He isn't. He isn't a ladder climber. He doesn't want to be at the top of the hierarchy.
No, it doesn't. We're not talking about his ambition. We're just talking about the way he sees the world. How is the world set up?
So that's what I thought at first, but now that you explain it more, I understand.
Yeah.
And I do believe that he puts things into a hierarchy.
Yeah. And so, and he sees, a plant would be very, has very fuzzy ideas, and the talk kind of wanders all over the place, and they connect this with that. I talk more like a plant. Mm-hmm. I'm not always just following the logic exactly right. Mm-hmm. That doesn't concern me as much. And they're very complicated about the world.
So here's an issue. Because of dementia, he's not as... he is a bit fuzzy. But
okay. Well, I think that fuzziness is not the one we're talking about.
Okay.
If he's kind of... He's fuzzy because of the dementia, but basically he's not a fuzzy guy. Or is he a fuzzy guy? Was he fuzzy before the dementia?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, okay. We're kind of not doing the polarity analysis thing where you set the time and you only take the symptoms from a certain place. I'm trying to get the big picture, and we might go to polarity analysis next. Okay. But right now we want to get the big picture. So I'm the dementia maybe it is our concern, but I'm kind of thinking we're a little bit further back than that. Okay. So anyway, your sense is that he would wear a plaid shirt or a striped shirt. You couldn't get him to wear a flower shirt. Right.
Yeah. He has always worn plaid shirts because he's a logger.
Yeah. But he could be in love with nature, and
Yeah. No, that's not him.
Okay. So, and the animal would be more concerned about survival. Something is coming after him, or life is coming after him, or death is going to do him in.
Okay.
I don't know if he has any animal qualities. We don't have to decide right now. But
there's a little bit of that, just a little bit. He's worried about his health and worried about not being able to function, and he's constantly apologizing to me and telling me how much he loves me, and because I'm taking care of him and helping him.
Yeah, but that's part of the kind of duty thing.
Yeah, it is.
He wants to be a responsible citizen, father.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So this duty, this work, community responsibility, kind of a clear framework for that's as big as the family community, is on the fourth row of the periodic table.
Okay.
The second row of the periodic table has to do with relationships. So they have problems with relationships. Like he should have problems with his wife. He should problems with you, his siblings. He should have problems with, somebody. Lots of people should give him problems.
Yeah, no, that's not him.
Yeah. And the first row is kind of like, who am I? What is my identity? Kind of a little more childish.
Okay.
Yeah, and that doesn't sound like him either. So he's this third row, or he's further down because he's more spiritual, or has more leadership, and he's more concerned with leadership of the world or something. And it doesn't sound like he's down there either. So he's probably this fourth row of the periodic table. Okay. The first row is oxygen and hydrogen, and they're kind of in outer space.
Okay.
They wonder if they exist. So, you don't meet a lot of people like that. Okay, so anyway, this is what I mean. I'm going to I'm going to try to get you to understand the framework of how remedies could be arranged so that you don't get so confused.
Okay.
And you don't feel like you have to memorize everything. Okay?
Yeah, this the periodic table is very interesting, and I'm writing madly.
Okay. So, my thought was this tight body, this thin, tight body, tall, tight body that works so hard, and the emotional state of a kind of a tight mind that had a hard time bending to his beloved wife's spirituality. And sort of death is the first light into the idea that there's something more than this tight body that he's most in touch with. So, you're always you're trying to get a picture of a person who's a mind and a body. So, just like you're looking for, the connection between the epileptic shock and the shock for a bee sting. You're making those kinds of connections. So if I'm talking to him, he's not going to organize very well, but I'm talking to you, so it's easier. So if I'm talking to him, it's much more difficult. You kind of have to intuit all this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And let's see. So he doesn't want pain medications for what reason?
Oh, he just doesn't like to not be able to think, and the pain medication dulls his thinking. He already has trouble with that. So he doesn't want anything that dulls his thinking.
Oh, so thinking is important for him. Yeah, well, I mean, you could be really hung about I can't feel versus thinking. See, thinking is different than feeling, right?
Yeah.
So if your pain medication gets in the way of your feeling, that's one kind of person. But the one who's concerned about the thinking, that's a different kind of person.
He also wants to do what is best for his body so that he can be healthy.
So it's very reason-oriented.
Yes, reason-oriented, yeah.
So we are looking for a reason-oriented body, remedy. Some of the remedies, people say, well, that's a female remedy. But what they're talking about is it's kind of more emotional, more fuzzy. Even among among the minerals, they're more fuzzy, emotional ones who take a kind of a more emotional state. And there are people who get fuzzy and dull because they can't, they lose their reasoning. Okay, so, and that's a very different state.
Okay.
So when his body is tight like that, does he lose his emotion? I mean, his thinking ability also when he's got this tight body?
Well, if you're talking about the seizures or
post-seizure.
Post-seizure, yeah, he has a very hard time functioning mentally. He, in fact, the last time we took him to the hospital, he had transient global amnesia. He didn't know who he was or where he was. And that was a more extreme episode.
Okay, so it doesn't usually go that far.
Correct.
So when it doesn't go that far, what's the mental function deficit?
Then he can't think, he can't remember. I ask him questions and he has trouble answering me because he can't remember what he did, just a few minutes ago. Well, what we have now for him is we have a housemate for him. Somebody he went to school with who can call me when there's an episode. The only trouble is sometimes the episodes happen when he's been sleeping. Or taking a nap or during the night, and so nobody checks on him during the night.
It's not evident at all. Yeah. Okay. Probably we need a remedy that doesn't mentally function too well. It's not that they're lacking mental functioning, but it's not and that really bothers him, right?
Yeah, it does bother him.
Bothered. So
Yeah.
we need a remedy that's bothered because they can't think and can't remember. Just being out of it and not be able to think and remember is different, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's more. He exhibits more dementia after an episode than normal, but then he does come back to 80% of memory.
Now I'm going to interrupt the tutorial just to give you a little bit better background into the use of the periodic table. First of all, the periodic table is a kind of a map for us. We have to figure out, these are basically the different kinds of homeopathic remedies. And we have to decide, which one are we going to use? Which one is the patient more like? And in the discussion with the student, it became very clear that he's probably more of a mineral, we thought. We thought about the mineral more, okay? But she's not giving me enough information to be more objective than that, okay? So we decide to use the periodic table, which kind of looks like this. And the remedies that are most often used are on the top part of the periodic table, okay? And each of these rows has a label based on the main element in that row. Carbon, silicon, and ferrum, which is iron, and silver, which is, maybe I didn't write it down here. Here, silver is here. Argentum. So they all have these Latin names. Ferrum, argentum are not the names that we normally use. But it's this part of the periodic table that you will use in the beginning. I'll use to introduce you. If you take a little bit larger look at the periodic table, you can say that from here, from this, these are the stages, okay? Each stage 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. At stage 6, a person begins to have a project in their life that they're conscious of. By stage 10, they're mature, they know what they're doing in life, what is important. And you see the remedies, carbon and silica here, okay? So if we take away the periodic table, this was a different case, take that out. You have iron and you have silver down here. Iron is the one that we think he's in. He's in the iron series. So you have stages and you have series. And we think that her father is in the iron series. So the iron series is about work and the village. And she thinks that he can be most easily identified with his work. We're going to find out when we get different information. This analysis isn't what we're going to get stuck at. You can see here that these different series, the different rows, have different kinds of attributes. Hydrogen and helium are about existence. Home, father, the family, just a very small unit. But then when you get into silicon, you're into more wider relationships, your family, your friends, for example. And the big one is phosphorus here, who's always very concerned about her friends. And it's kind of more of an adolescent phase. This is a kind of a childhood phase, and this one is a baby phase. But here, we're iron phase. We're getting into the adult who is working or works, does some task. And below that, you have the silver series, which is more about culture and art. If it's in some kind of hierarchy, this one is the queen, this one is the worker. Okay. This is your friends, this is your family, this is your existence. And if you go down further, you get to gold and spirituality. The gold series, it's down here. Okay, so this is beyond what we're explaining today. But today, it's just going to focus on this. Actually, the next one is going to focus on this one here. So it isn't quite as limited by the place on the periodic table where we're going to be talking about. So you just get this idea of there being some kind of hierarchy of characteristics for each row. And I described this in my discussion with the student, but maybe saying it twice is not a bad idea. I'm sure this is very unfamiliar to most of you. I send you these PDF files to help you to see what I'm talking about. But it's organized into stages. So you have the first row, first column, second column, third stage. But that's called stages in this system. But it's actually the columns of the periodic table. So we think he's in the working series, which is the iron series, which is the fourth row. And then we're organized into stages next. And the stages up to 6, they're all trying to get there. But he's already been there. He was already mentally functioning well, and he had a good memory and all that kind of stuff. So if I'm talking to him, he's not going to organize very well, but I'm talking to you, so it's easier. So if I'm talking to him, it's much more difficult. You kind of have to intuit all this stuff. Yeah. Okay. And let's see.
Okay.
And life becomes kind of difficult, and you're very nostalgic. It sounds like I got to talk to my wife. It sounds like it's a form of nostalgia.
Yeah.
He's got to talk to someone who's dead, which is a withdrawal. Become misty and trying to retreat from life. I mean, he's not trying to become unable to think or to lack a memory, but he's doing this retreat stuff. So he's 13 or past that. And then there's 18. It goes up to 18. Okay, and so it's someplace beyond 18. 14 is disengaged. Does he want these old relationships with people? Does he want to be part of society still at all?
He does. He wants to be part of his family, and he wants to be part of his friends. COVID has been very difficult because he can't just go hang out with friends.
Okay, so in stage 14, they begin to disengage. So he's not disengaging. It sounds like he's reduced.
Reduced, probably.
Yeah, he and the other ones are past that. They're worse than that. So if we look down at stage 13, oh my God, there isn't too much here. Gallium is in the work series, in the iron series, and they're stubborn. They have some deafness. In other words, you tell them something and they're not hearing it because they're preoccupied with something else.
Yeah, or because, yes, that describes him in a way. He doesn't hear me sometimes because he's determined that he knows a different answer, and the different answer is right.
And also he gets very angry, and you can't convince him that maybe this is... Well, tell me about this anger stuff with him.
Yeah, well, he doesn't very often get angry.
Okay.
And I don't know that he's very seldom ever in my life gotten angry at me. I honestly can't remember a time when he was angry at me. But he does get angry at other people.
Mm-hmm. And what's that like?
He doesn't talk. He I know with my mother, he would get upset with her about something because, she would nag him to do things, right, that he needed to do. And he didn't want to do them. He would talk to her for a while, a couple of days. And she didn't like that at all.
Okay. So it sounds like he's been in stage 13 for a while. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And anything else? What about friends? What's the stubbornness? What's this staying angry stuff like?
He forgets about his anger after a bit. It doesn't last a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure if he talks himself out of it or if he just forgets, but he doesn't stay angry.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Does he ever feel like there are forces, like his friends or somebody is becoming the enemy? Or chasing him or into someplace he doesn't want to be?
I don't think so. I mean, occasionally he'll have to make decisions that he doesn't want to make because somebody has essentially cornered him and he has to choose between two things and he doesn't want either one.
Oh, I think gallium, I studied it fairly recently, and I think they have trouble with decisions. Okay. I'm looking at gallium, Jan's book on the minerals, his new book, not the old book. Okay, and they're stubborn about their work, stubbornly following routines, outmoded techniques. The enemy undermines your work. Do any of these? Tell me if any of these.
Yeah. This sounds like him.
Disbelieve your own ability.
Enemy undermines your work. Is that what you said?
Yeah, enemies undermine your work.
Okay.
Disbelieving your own ability.
Well, yeah, some. Yeah.
Falling back on old routines.
Yeah.
Nostalgia for old crafts.
Old crafts. I'm not sure about that.
I think it could include woodwork or any kind of the work that he does on houses and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And logging is pretty much an old craft.
Yes, it certainly is. Stubbornly denying failure.
That occasionally I can see where
giving up after criticism.
Giving up after criticism. Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So he kind of fits this very nicely. I'll try to photocopy this and send it to you. But It's the idea of the old crafts is the old ways are better than the new ones. New ways are not very good.
There's a little bit of that in him.
Okay. And they retreat into their own fort and close off from the rest of the world and all its innovations. They have a kind of a place to hide out.
Yeah, well, yes, that fits him very well because, his home is particularly important to him, and that's where he recovers from anything.
Okay.
Emotional or physical or anything.
Disbelief in their own abilities. They feel that it's impossible for them to change, to learn new techniques, and improve their performance. They no longer believe in themselves. They feel they have worked at maximum capacity, and that is all they have to offer.
At first I was thinking that didn't fit, but it does, partly because he feels that there's a lot that he can't do now because of the heart issue.
Oh, I see. So he's kind of defeated by the heart issue.
Yes.
Okay.
He's worried about it and a bit afraid. And occasionally lifts something that is too heavy because he can, right? Mm-hmm. He can do it, but then he suffers afterwards.
Oh, this remedy has big-time anemia.
Oh, anemia.
Yes.
Okay.
And, they don't talk about acidosis. Being too alkaline. What is alkaline? The problem with alkaline.
Yeah.
But maybe we can find more on the internet about them. They have stomach problems. That results in nausea or vomiting. Does he have that ever?
He does have a little trouble with his tummy during the episodes.
So then he has nausea and vomiting, or not?
No. Well, he doesn't very often vomit, but he has at least once recently.
Okay. So these are the generals. Generals mean, oh, no, this is a case, the generals of the case. I don't know what. They're worse in the morning.
Right now, I don't know whether it's worse in the morning.
Okay, so now
the problem is that he isn't sleeping at night very well. So then he may get up for a little bit and then go back to bed. And so I don't call him until after 12 o'clock because he may be napping, and he feels very, it's not right to be sleeping in the middle of the day as far as he's concerned.
There's after you decided that, let's say we decided the remedy is gallium, okay?
Okay.
They're the salts of gallium, because it's a mineral, right?
Yes.
And sulfur is the one that's described here.
Okay.
And sulfur is stubbornly in love, nostalgically in love, determined out of jealousy, selfishly withdrawing, stubbornly theorizing, or loses all faith in love.
Well, that could fit too.
It sounds like his thing with your mom is very, very healthy, though.
Yeah, they used to go dancing all over Port Angeles, Bremerton, Seattle, and they followed a band that they liked, that they were friendly with.
Was he jealous at all?
No, he wasn't. Not as far as I know. Maybe a little, but not enough that I found out about it. But there were times that a song would come off and he'd pull off the road and they would get out of the car and dance, leave the door open and get around and dance on the side of the road until their favorite song was over and then they'd get in and drive on.
Lovely.
Yeah. So
okay.
he was a romantic fellow.
So straight gallium is right-sided. The local symptoms are right-sided. And gallium sulfuricum, the local symptoms are left-sided.
Okay, so how do I determine that?
Okay, so, if he has any paralysis or any kind of difference in his legs, for instance, when he has these strokes, not strokes, when he has the epilepsy, then you'd look for which side of the body heals slower.
Okay.
Or just any, like my whole right side of my body has had many injuries. And it's always having a new one. It's always having problems. It's because the left side is so lazy. It doesn't work as hard as the right side is trying to make up all the time. Okay, it's really stupid, but anyway. Okay, so you're going to have to learn about sulfur. Maybe I'll make a video about it or something, but you can't wait for me to make a video. So sulfur, I'm going to send you a video, a recording of Manjulavari talking about sulfur. And sulfur is kind of the, he describes him as the guy who's standing on a pile of shit and crowing. Because he's the top, and he wants to have all these followers around him, and so he's always, and he can always invent new problems. If he has a problem,
he can invent a different one and quit having that problem, but then he'll invent another one. So the problem with sulfur is that it's huge in the Materia Medica because it has so many problems. So it's very hard to find sulfur.
Well, it's interesting that mineral came up because one of the things that helps him to come back is eggs, the sulfur in eggs and the sulfur in meat. So when he's had an episode, I make him very often like a chicken omelet.
Oh, you're so great. You're a herbalist, so you right away think about the actual minerals in the food that. Oh, that's so fantastic.
Yeah, but then we thought maybe because we were giving him Coke to come out of the seizure, that his system was becoming too acidic, and maybe that's why he was having almost constant episodes for a month. So we have started giving him calcium. He stopped taking. So for years he's had a great big smoothie every morning with lots of fruit in it, and he stopped doing that a little while back, probably 3 months back, maybe. And so his body maybe isn't as alkaline as it has always been, and but somehow it becomes alkaline.
Okay, I've just looked up the coca in Vermilion's, one of the Vermilion's books. I just looked up the remedies that are related to coca, and sulfur is one of them.
Oh.
Yeah. It's, there's a whole bunch of it that are comparative, that are similar enough. So it's not really that informative. But, sulfur is, in general, it says here that for geranium sulfuricum, that they're very manly.
Okay.
And sulfur is, it's a very strong constitution. That's why they can stand on top of a pile of shit and feel great. Because they're very strong.
Yeah, he used to have a strong constitution. The thing you don't know about me is that I am a mineralogist a bit.
Oh, wow.
I had a grandfather who was a mineralogist. In fact, I have his sitting right behind me here.
Oh, who's that? Oscar?
No, it was my grandfather, Ray. He was he drew maps of the stopes of mines in Idaho.
Was this your mother's father?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So everybody in our group is gonna get all this information too, and I want them to I'm gonna send them this interview with you if you don't mind. Okay. The other thing is that Jeremy Scher has beautifully described gallium as a remedy for AIDS. But it doesn't fit too well. I think because actually Hank is not that sick. He doesn't have AIDS. And so the gallium in AIDS is more like running away and extreme paranoia and, very hardworking, very responsible, but, so I'm not going to share that with you because I don't think it's all that helpful.
Yeah, right off the bat, it just doesn't seem like that.
Yeah. Fits. But it also helps you to understand that every description of a remedy is not necessarily at the same level of disease. So when you're considering the same remedy for AIDS, it's going to look different when it's for a guy who has, seizures is pretty bad.
Yeah.
Seizures is way up there, but it's not nearly as bad as AIDS. Okay, so he has an organic heart problem. He has some kind of a kidney issue going on, but that's small compared to having AIDS. Yeah. Okay, so it's getting late.
Yes.
And I'll send you several things. I'll send you a periodic table showing you the general description of all of the remedies in the periodic table.
Okay.
And I want you to remember that we kind of went through the rows and we figured out that he was in the iron series. He's a worker. He's a person.
I did write it down. I did write it down.
And you're going to have this recording, so don't worry about it. He's in that whole row. Okay? And then we went down the stages, the columns. And we figured out that he's probably in stage 13. So without knowing much about gallium, we kind of figured it out. And if you go to a website called Seizure, QJURE.com, it's Q is like cure, as in cure my sore throat, cure. QJ is to throw the people who hate us off their guard so they don't find this website. QJURE, cure. So cure.com. So if you look in there, you'll find a description of gallium. And if we have any good luck, you're going to find a description of gallium sulfuricum. And there may be other salts in there, but it's kind of a hard site to search. So gallium sulfuricum, gallium muriaticum, gallium iodidum, gallium bromatum. All of the halogens easily hook to other minerals. So they all become the salts. And phosphorus also hooks to these other remedies.
How often do you use the halogen remedies?
Well, I use a lot of it these days. I don't know, because of the polarity analysis. My old way of repertorizing, I would never find iodine, but I'm using iodine now for two people, and they don't necessarily have thyroid issues, but it's because of the polarity analysis. But these iodine, all of the ones in that column, hook onto other minerals. Same for arsenic and phosphorus. There's a limited set. So what you do is and sulfur. And so you learn what sulfur is about by a remedy by itself. And when it hooks onto another element, it's going to have some aspects of sulfur and some aspects of that other one. And then you kind of have to figure out which one is dominant. It's not always the first one that's dominant. Sometimes the other one is more dominant. Okay, so that's just, it's a tricky little area, but usually the first one is more dominant. Okay? So in the future, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be learning all these salts. So that you can understand, you can differentiate when you read the main remedy and then you read the salt, you understand, it isn't all confused like you're learning so much information. It's the main remedy plus a salt and that you already know the salt. That's the state of affairs that you want. Okay. So you're going to get this MP3 from Manjulavari. I don't want these shared around the internet. These are not for other people.
I won't share them with anyone.
Okay, it's only for our inner group. Okay. Any other questions? Or you can email me and get questions together later. Or we may rethink it and maybe it isn't gallium. But, that's also possible. Okay?
Yeah, well, it's going to be interesting to
do you think we should, how much time do we have? Do you have to go to bed now?
I don't have to, no.
Okay. Do you want to go to bed?
I'm getting a little bit weary, but I'm okay for a few minutes if you have something you want to talk about.
Well, what I was thinking about, maybe you can do this on your own. Why don't you do this on your own? You look at the polarity analysis chart there, and you think about his let's choose one problem that he has. Maybe it's the, coca seems to prevent the epilepsy, post-epilepsy recovery.
Okay.
So the state he's in post-epilepsy.
Okay.
And you answer all those questions in terms of the post-epilepsy. You don't have it really available, so you can't go and ask him because he doesn't remember anything. So I don't know. Is there something else easier to do than that, where you'd just like to have another remedy to help him with something?
Well, I've spent a lot of time with him. I probably can do this. I have been with him post-seizure more than I've been with him during the seizure.
Okay, so post-seizure with the memory gone and the muscles all tight, and it's not going to have too much about the memory gone because polarity analysis doesn't have a lot of mental symptoms. But then you look those up in another repertory, or you look it up in the Materia Medica. And so what we're looking for is kind of a little tiny side remedy for those times. And it's like you're doing your homework. So when you meet that emergency next time, you're a little better equipped.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So what I want you to do is you kind of answer those questions and fill them out better. So justifying why each of those are XYZ, and you send me a copy of an Excel spreadsheet of your calculation.
Okay.
And you can look at your remedies and look them up in Materia Medica and argue for one or the other, like I've done in all the videos.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Okay. We'll see how all this goes, and I hope we get good results.
Well, this is also amazing. I just am blown away.
I tell you, homeopathy is amazing. It is amazing. Yeah. Okay. So we'll see what we can do. Okay.
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 All right. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
So thank you very much for watching the first video in this two-part series, where you have listened to a case report done by the student and a summary that is a pre-analysis of what she reported, and analyzing that case based on the periodic table of minerals. As well, I've introduced the periodic table of minerals. In video 2, we're going to analyze the same case, but the student brings more information about those seizures. And so we end up using a plant remedy, and the analysis becomes an analysis using the periodic table of minerals as well, but in this case, we find this remedy through polarity analysis. She gives us enough information that we can use polarity analysis. Okay, so I hope you'll go on and watch video 2 later on. This is Ellen Madono, and you've been taking part in a tutorial with a beginner who is reporting on the case of an 80-year-old man. And this is Ellen Madono, and I'm very happy that you're interested in listening to this kind of information. If you'd like to learn more, please contact me at my website and click on those subscribe buttons or like buttons so that the bots and the mechanical parts of the internet recognize us. Okay, thank you very much.